Hello, me lovelies. Well, I'm joined by Steve Wraith again to discuss this. I don't know how to take me. Decca Heggie revealing his paperwork. Now, just let me point out, I said acro at a couple of points. And the reason I said that was because everyone was assuming what they were going to get was this acro or enhanced DBS. But that didn't happen. And I asked Steve onto this live stream because I thought it was important to discuss it, because certainly now I'm not sitting on the fence with Deca. I've got major concerns about him. And I just asked Steve on to discuss his thoughts on it, and I'll discuss my thoughts. So what were your thoughts, Steve, first?
I mean, it was quite interesting because I went on to Paul Ellis's podcast last night, and Paul's like an up-and-coming YouTuber. He's trying to get subscriptions. He's up to about 800, I think. And, we went on and just decided to have a chat about, various things. It was quite a laid-back conversation, but he wanted to try something different, which was to actually screen Decca's podcast onto his podcast whilst we were on and talk about it, which was quite a novel idea. I really liked the idea. So we went on and we watched it together. It was difficult to see the paperwork, so I opened another window and watched the actual video with the sound off on my computer as we chatted. And it was a major disappointment, Anne, because ultimately it was premiered, it was monetized. And it was an opportunity, really, we all felt, for him to come out and show us his truth, admit to what he wanted to admit to, show us the relevant paperwork. And I think everybody would have been, look, people are going to hate. The haters are going to hate. People who like him are going to support him. But I think ultimately, for everybody, we just wanted an end to it. It's really... It's tarnished the end of the year on YouTube, I think, because I think what it's done is we've all got involved. Some haven't had to get involved, but some have. And we've all had an opinion. We're all YouTubers. We've all got an opinion. I've been slightly more involved because of my run-in with him over the Conroy situation. And I just felt it was a major disappointment. Look, you were a police officer and you know the situation. I've written books about true crime and read countless depositions from the Sayers family to the Massey family. I've read them all while I've been doing books, and I've read the Craze depositions and stuff. So ultimately, I know what I was looking at last night, and I wasn't looking at an acro. I wasn't looking at a Claire's law. I wasn't looking at Sarah's law. I was looking at something that gets handed out in court, Anne. To you before you go in for your case. It's something which is easily accessible. And it was just the way that it was put across. Anne, what about you?
Well, immediately when I saw it coming up, I thought, this isn't genuine paperwork. This is just been scanned on. Now, the problem, what you have with scanning on, is that scanned documents can be fiddled with. And also, it was the whole issue of the way he presented it as well. It was like, here we are, he's the perpetual victim, isn't he? But he's acting the victim. That's what I felt. No, there's tears and all that. I didn't buy the tears for one bit. But I also got the sense, Steve, he's playing. He's playing games with people. I think he knows damn well what he's up to. I mean, how many people did he have waiting for that? Well over 2,000 people he had waiting for it. I think he thinks he's onto it. The way to say no publicity is bad publicity. Sometimes it can be bad publicity. Says bad publicity, which I think he's going to find further down the line. Because what's the dreams and hopes of everyone that's on YouTube and becomes successful on YouTube? They want to get into the mainstream, the networks where the big money can be made, where the reputations, you can get respect as a professional if you get into the networks and all that. I think he's cut that right off. That's never going to happen with the stuff surrounding him. But I don't know what people think in the comments. The thing that got me, because I was sitting on the fence, I had my concerns about Deca, but I feel totally as if he's thinking that people are a total and utter mug, and he's taking them for mugs. And that's what I don't like about it. He's very, very manipulative. That's another thing I discovered about it. But once I saw that, I thought, oh no, There's no way he wouldn't know that that would not be acceptable to people. People were waiting for an acro. People were waiting for an enhanced DBS. And he produces that, which wasn't revealing anything new. But someone else, I can't remember who it was a video Craig pointed out that he seems to be getting off with a lot of oh no, it was Karma. Corner wasn't said. He seems to be getting off with a lot of things when you look at the paperwork. But if you want to see what he should be producing, look at what Tony Baker's and look at what Karma Corner produced. That's what people need to see. But definitely, my view of Decca Heggie now is I wouldn't associate with him. I wouldn't have him anywhere near me. It would just be like, keep well away from me, because that was nothing but a shameful show where he was trying to make mugs out of his followers and whoever was watching him. But that's my view anyway.
Yeah, a lot of people on the comments, I mentioned it again, a lot of people were saying that it was a rather suspicious video, and that struck me straight away because, I mean, we're broadcasting live now, but we don't have a big red sign in the corner saying live. You know, I felt that was a little bit too obvious. I felt it was pre-recorded. And I've picked up on, as I say, I've watched most of the people's reviews of the situation on YouTube over the last few hours, and Karma Corner picked that out as well. It didn't look live. It felt very staged. A lot of people saying, where was the scar on his head from the show that he had, the fight that he had? That.
Was there no scar on his head?
No. People said that had gone. And that was, and I mean, I watched it back again and I'm thinking, is it a trick of the light? Is it just because he's sitting in that, you know, back office or wherever it is that he records his podcast? And is it because he was angled in a particular way? I'm not sure. But that was really the talk of the chat last night. People going, well, where's the scar gone? This isn't live. But the paperwork was the most damning thing. And like I said, to actually then put something up, which again, and I mean, as if things couldn't get any worse than what he's already done and what he's been convicted of, and some of the stuff that he's been NFA'd for, to then show something which shows that he actually is being convicted. He got a £250 fine. And £650 costs were awarded for a racist and religious verbal assault on somebody. Now, again, you know, that's just another thing which people will now question him on. But I think it was a lot of the technical terms that a lot of us probably didn't understand. Certainly somebody like me who I read depositions and I do this and do that, but usually mine are quite cut and dry. It's he stabbed him, he shot him, he's alleged to have done this, he's alleged to have done that. This person says this person says that. There's a lot of terms which I didn't understand, and I saw Karma struggling with that as well. In fact, he stopped his podcast at one point because he had to go away and try and work out what it was, because it's pointless us saying this is what it is if we don't know what we're talking about. So there was a few things on there which I was scratching my head going, well, that sounds as if he's done something, but he's been told, you know, he's had another suspended sentence, or he's had this, or he's had that. And I'm thinking, what is all that about? So there was a hell of a lot there, which I wasn't even aware of. And I'm sure a lot of people weren't either. So again, I think it just put more fuel on the fire for a man, I think.
Yeah. It's just, it was like his expose, it's backfired spectacular on him. He just hasn't got, what was I was saying, no, when I was discussing what happened to video Craig, the fishbowl effect, where people on YouTube, because they're not working in the media professionally or working in the networks, they don't have PR people and agents dictating to them, this is what you do, that's what you don't do. He hasn't got that. So people on YouTube go out there, they haven't got anyone advising them, and they do things like Deca does. It absolutely blows up and they do completely the wrong thing. But it's just, all that I can say is, do you know what? I feel so sorry for Ronan, I do. Let's Talk podcast, I do. Because that was supposed to be me that was doing those interviews on Deca's channel, because he wanted me to go on there and sort of act as a cover, you know, saying he's being cyberbullied. And it was only because of Ron Swanson was getting involved. I said, no, not interested. And I never thought I'd say this. Thank you, Ron Swanson, because I would be absolutely tearing my hair out now, worrying about my reputation if I'd done that. But it's just, I don't know. It's like he's going out there and he's either is thinking people are total mugs, and that means he's an absolute complete nutter, narcissist, that he thinks he can fool people that way. Or he's playing games. He knows he's on the way to being finished and being out the game. So he's just making as much leverage out of it as he can at the moment.
Would you like us to read his statement, Anne? He's just 25 minutes ago. He's just put a statement out on his community page on YouTube, and it says, "I became completely exhausted from trying to be stronger than I felt. Anxiety crippled me, the racing thoughts that ran through my mind, the constant overthinking the worst. I never spent this Christmas with my family. I ran away from everything and buried my mind into the abyss, hoping the days would go so fast and that the festive season would be over, not wanting my negative energy or mindset rubbing off on anyone else. The only way I can describe it was if my anxiety made me feel high, made me feel constantly on edge and scared of my own shadow. The slightest noise, I'd jump, scared of life and scared of what the future held for me. I've overcame the worst, and now it's time to start a positive journey all alone, finding myself and doing what makes me happy and eradicating all negative energy out of my life, doing what makes me happy and making the right decisions for myself. Sometimes I took life for granted, but being at the bottom of the hole sometimes make you appreciate life more. It's time to focus on the good things, the positive and happy things, but most of all, make my family proud. I wasn't with them this Christmas. I was buried in an oblivion in my mind. Next year will be different. I promise this."
And that's it.
And that's it.
Here we are, Deca. Put some glitter on it, sweetheart. Put some glitter. Do the complete and utter show time. Show girl on stage time. Not buying a word of it. That is just so overdone, isn't it? I mean, it's just so dramatic in its statement. And this Nuttingham claiming to be some kind of ambassador for mental health, which is sickening. Maybe he has got mental health. I don't know. Do you know, I can hear a strange little thing coming back in my ears again. But this mental health thing that he's gone on, he might do, but his mental health isn't getting in the way of him trying to manipulate situations and manipulate how people think about him. And he had one of the greatest recoveries from, as Carl McCorner pointed out as well, the recoveries from a mental breakdown. A week later, he came back, all sparkling and all ready to go. So he's even, you can see him as taking the piss out of mental health. That's what I see it as now. He's just using that skill, but he's taking the piss.
I agree. And like I said on me live last night, I'm not somebody, thankfully, who has suffered from any mental health issues or mental health breakdowns. We all have highs and lows in our lives, and we all have ambitions and aspirations. And, as an actor, I get knockbacks and that's par for the course. You get more knockbacks than jobs, and you have to learn to deal with that. And it's coping mechanisms as well, and it's how you deal with things. Some people, if they get bad news, the first thing they turn to is alcohol, for example, the biggest and worst drug in the UK. I've always said this, and clearly he has these issues as well, and it's all self-inflicted though. That's the problem. And look, whatever happens over the next few months with this situation, and it looks as if it's going to continue, reading that message, then I would honestly advise people who make YouTube content to maybe stop stoking the fire now. We've put out there what we want to put out there. We've all had our say, but me personally, I think we're actually helping make this monster bigger. Create a bigger monster by talking about it a lot. And I think all the relevant stuff is out there now. I think people not talking about it will probably work in the right way. And I think that the authorities, I am sure, have been watching all of this, have been listening to all of this, have been recording all of this. They will have spoken to potential victims. There may be other victims out there who might come forward. And who knows what is going to happen. The most important thing that's happened in the last few weeks isn't YouTube videos, isn't him coming out and making grand statements or having, breakdowns, inverted commas, online. It's all about the police arresting him. And I think, as you know, and better than I do, what they might have in mind. And police forces in different areas may start talking, and that might see a completely different turning in this in 2022.
Well, the thing is, it looks like that the police, and I had this conversation with Tony Baker on Messenger, and Tony Baker was saying the police aren't doing it. Because really, when you think of it, that issue over Danny Christie, that stood out at me, because I'm sure Deca said that he got him for harassment, and that's what the police pulled him on. Now, if you take malicious communications is different, but if you go for harassment, and it's very hard to get the police or the CPS to take that on, and it's taken on, you've got to prove or say to the court that you are so distressed and alarmed by this person that they need keeping away from you and they need punishing, because them contacting you is terrible. Then Deca goes, and he's the one that goads them into having a fight. He's the one that goads them. And as I said to Tony Baker when he first said that to me, he said, well, he should go then to the police and say, he's made a false report here. He claimed to be terrified of me. Now he's getting me to breach the order. Or if the order was still alive, to breach it. And this is what's going on. So, but that doesn't mean, because people are saying that Deca's a copper's pencil, right? That doesn't necessarily mean it's a copper's pencil. You can just get either very lazy police officers who can't be bothered doing that, because again, you've got to remember, people blame the police for a lot of things. Oh, they didn't do this, they didn't charge this person, they didn't charge that. It's the CPS who dictate who goes to court, the Crown Prosecution Service. They dictate it, not the police. And believe me, there's many times the police have been foaming at them out, spent hours to try and get someone, and the CPS is just not interested. Not in the public interest. That's the famous quote they come up with. So that doesn't mean that he's he's in with the police, working with the police, but he looks like he's either very lucky or they're very lazy, one or the other. That's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, look, I feel sorry for Danny. I'm certainly going to try and, I've got the details of his solicitor now, and I am going to certainly put a reference forward, a letter forward, explaining from an observer's point of view that I think it's a bit unfair that he's getting, a recall, for this to court. Yeah. I think it's ludicrous because, he was goaded. And like I said, it's machismo, it's male pride. Eventually, as a fighting man, you are going to say, look, I can't take this anymore. Come on, then let's have a fight. And it wasn't as if it was done in a barroom brawl with glasses flying. It was done in an organised way. It was done in front of the world's media, really, because there's nearly 2 million people watch the fight now, and it was done because this guy provoked him. And ultimately, Deca has left a print on his own channel by saying that he would go and he would stand up for him and say that it was his fault for doing it. So, one good thing that he's probably done, but I mean, that can be taken and all these videos have been saved by certain people, and I think they could be used to hopefully mean that Danny's kids don't have any more time without him, and he can just get on with his life and move on.
Well, you see, the thing with, I have a different view of Danny Christie, and I don't agree with this thing that people are holding up as a hero or something just because he admitted. He have no choice but admit what his own past. He's no glowing member of society, let's put it this way. But the whole point of being put on an order is, as I said before, last time I spoke on this, it's the naughty step for an adult, and there's consequences to if you come off that naughty step. He's got to prove whether he's goaded or not. He's not going to rise up to that goal, and that's the whole point of it. It's getting someone that is not acting in a controlled way to think about that, to have consequences if they don't. Like saying to a child, you're not having your sweeties now, and meaning you're not getting your sweeties if you carry on. So the law is going to go the way the law is intended to go and has to go in this case. But at the same time, Deca should be looked at as well for what he did. He should be looked at. This is a person he's supposed to be terrified of. It causes some distress and alarm. Is anyone going to go and entice to meet up personally with someone that they're terrified of? No way. No way. So he needs looking at as well. It's just as unbalanced. Daddy is going to have to answer to the law. He shouldn't have done it or agreed to it. But Deca should be answering to the law at exactly the same time. That's the way I see it anyway in that.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people talk about the acro as well, but I mean, obviously that was something that really only came to light when he did Ronan's podcast, and when he spoke to Ronan suggested doing an acro, which will essentially would prove him innocent or guilty, and then it was the talk of YouTube. Everyone was saying, oh well, what's an acro? And yeah, an acro is a great idea. I've got to laugh though. And you shouldn't laugh in this situation, but ultimately, the same people who were saying a couple of weeks ago get an acro, as soon as this poor paperwork came out last night, people weren't saying, where's the acro? People are then saying, well, I didn't say get an acro, get this, he should be getting this. And
yeah,
I still feel that there's one or two people out there trying to milk this as much as they can and try and push it on. And that's why I said last night, unless I go on a podcast like this one today and somebody specifically asks us about it, I'm moving on my channel. I don't want to sully the good content with this anymore, because I feel we're just giving him oxygen. I feel that the narcissism which is clearly on display is feeding off this. And if he is bipolar, I think half of them thinks he's innocent and half of them thinks he's guilty. I think it's a strange situation. I've never been in a situation like this before. And I think there's more than enough people now capable of saying what they want to say, and people have got their own opinion. And I think it's time for me personally, and to move on my channel with it,
See, as I see it, right, if I have any more questions, if I have any more comments, I'm going to actually comment on it and do it, because at the simple fact, he's out there, he's putting himself out there, there's serious questions to be asked. And it's like what I was saying the other day on a live with Heather and Christine Clark. I said, when someone is going out there and they're really trying to manipulate people and do things, or in what happened to me and Heather, it's a case of we were cyberbullied or whatever, and by certain people. It's up to us whether we let go of that. Now, I've got this situation happening at the moment. There's one YouTuber who, as I mentioned me for a year, suddenly had a snipe at me. So I came back at this YouTuber and I thought, right, that's it. I was willing to forget it. Now it's on again, that way. And I will revive it, because at the end of the day, it's the victim who has the power. They're the ones that decide whether someone should move on in another direction or whether they shouldn't, because they've given the victim that power by giving them the evidence. Say, here we are, trying to make out that you're a lovely thing. No, you're not. Here's the evidence that you weren't. And always remember that, people, if people go on hounding people on YouTube and all that, remember that person will be collecting everything you're saying. Then when suddenly you think, oh, wait a minute, I can get monetized. Oh, wait a minute, I can get a big following. Oh, wait a minute, I can be known and all this, and your reputation is everything to you. Then that victim can come along and say, actually, no, you're not going to move on because I'm not ready for you to move on. And that's what I always say. And Deca now has put him in that position where it's up to people whether they let him move on or not. It's up to his viewers. And if they don't want to let him move on, tough, he shouldn't have put himself in that. Because he has been playing a game, that's obvious to me. He's been really playing up to this. And when you start playing that game, don't go crying. If it's suddenly you start getting, but you want to give it up. People who are part of that game and taken and involved in it don't want to give it up. That's the way I see it anyway, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, Michaelson's made a really good point. She says, I have severe MH, mental health, and I'm a survivor of DV and SA. If I saw constant videos in public discussing my rape, I knew I wouldn't be here. It's beyond triggering. And that's what I was trying to say about certain people moving on. I think that, there does still need to be an awareness depending on what happens moving forward. But I just genuinely feel that everybody, and you've mentioned Anthony Burke, we've mentioned Karma Corner, we've mentioned The Honest Truth, The Humbles. All these people have been on the road over the last few years. Some of them, Paula, who I had on the show the other night. I mean, these people have all come out and they've had their say, and they've, for whatever reason, they have pushed and pushed and pushed. And now that it's come to this big crescendo, I personally feel that, certain people should just step away from it now and leave it, because I think there's more than enough there. And we'll have to keep remembering that potentially, we don't know how many victims there are, but I know for a fact that if I was a victim of something and it was kept getting brought up on YouTube and I wasn't there to talk about it, or I didn't want to be reminded of it, I would be horrified. So it's that little thing, it's that little thing.
This was said from day one, right? I'm sorry, you do not go and start using potential victims as bait, and you don't know until there's a police investigation and a conviction. You don't know whether a victim is genuinely a victim or not, and you have to say that, Steve. There are cases where people make allegations and they're just not true, but you don't go putting it out there. And as I say, you certainly don't go trying to pay people to come up with evidence, because this is one thing that I've always said. Now, to say, but we heard his name spoken when I had that row with Sean Atwood on your podcast when we were talking about domestic violence, and we talked about a certain ex-Metropolitan Police officer who claims to be a whistleblower. Where's he ever blown the whistle on anyone? Now, I cannot stand him. I really don't like him like a lot of people do. I see him as being a con man. I see him being a fraud and everything. Now, there was a while ago, a campaign went round, and what it was doing was it was saying that he was accusing false assaults. He tried to make money out of victims of CSE, CSA. And I said, wait a minute, that wasn't him that did that. That was Anna Breeze that was running those classes. He wasn't getting any money out of that. So I said, you can't push that on him. And then, and I'm not going to go into it explicitly, a horrendous allegation came out about him, that he did something in a station. And as I said, wait a minute. I said, that's not true. It is, it's true. I said, it's not, it can't be. I said, you mean to tell me he became a police officer when he was 14 years old, and he did what he's supposed to have done in one of the busiest stations in the metropolis, which would be like stations can be like Euston Station with people coming in. They don't announce, hello, I'm here. So as I said, no, I said, when you do things like that and you start making up, and this is what I said about MMA philosophy, the way he was going on, right? When you start doing things like that, putting stuff like that out there, it makes the person a victim. That's what it does. It turns them into victim. And I said to him, no way do I want this ex-Met police officer turned into a victim. I said, you don't need to turn him into a victim or lie about him. I said, there's enough on him that you can prove, I said, to show that he is a shady character, that you can't trust him. But putting lies out there and putting spurious allegations or paying for information, all that does is say this person is a victim. That's what it does. So you have to be very careful, and you just don't do it. You don't put people out there who are saying, well, this happened to me. We don't know whether it happened unless there's a police investigation in. So on that part, I'd agree that should be left well alone and just let things happen.
Karma Corner says, but where do you draw the line? If we step away, there could be new victims created. He has to have his videos responded to. He can't be allowed to have BS, mental health BS go unanswered. I mean, Karma's done a great job, and I've got to be honest, it's my first port of call for any updates on anything. Anybody who's having a bit of a YouTube dispute, because he does it in his own imitable way. And I know you're not a fan of bad language, but for me, I just find it funny the way that he does it. He's got a great talent, and he needs to keep up his content. And I see where he's coming from, but I think he's one of the ones who should continue to go, because I think sometimes we do all need to have a laugh. And sometimes, laughing is the greatest thing, on earth for me. I love doing it. And he's one of those who I think should continue to do, because when he needs to be serious, he's serious. And when he's not, when he can have a laugh, he has a laugh. And I think he's fair to everybody. And I think he's one of the ones who, should continue. But I think there's other podcasters. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to get into arguments with people. I just think there's other people who should just step away and move away.
Yeah.
As for MMA philosophy, me and him had a chat last night on Twitter, and we've just agreed to disagree on one particular point, and we're moving on. We've done a virtual handshake, and we're moving on. So that's great. That's the way it should be. I try to reach out to people, and I try to say to people, look, if you've got a problem with this, let's have a chat. I'll come on your show or whatever. And I think that's the best way to do it moving forward, because I think people are starting to see through the clickbait as well. There's a few clickbait people out there,
Oh, I know. Okay. Oh, do you know what, Steve? Right, this gets me. I get accused that you're clickbaiting and all this. Look, right, let's get it this way. You're on YouTube, you're doing this. It's a part of entertainment. You've got to see it as a part of entertainment. You're not doing a social service. I am by having a YouTube podcast. It's trying to entertain people. And I always say, I said to someone the other day, I said, so if you go into, let's say it's Christmas, you go into a shop and they're selling the latest toys that are advertised on television. Are you going to say, oh, how dare you take advantage of people like that by selling what people want and giving them what they want? To enjoy and play with. How dare you do that? Look, they call it clickbait, right? What a podcast is supposed to. Are they supposed to only produce content about boring people that no one knows about? Oh, Mrs. Smith down the road bought pink salmon instead of red salmon the other day. Shock horror. Let's have a debate. No, people are going to talk about who's out there at that time. And as long as they're not saying that is total slander, which I've had happening to me, slanderous things said about me, fair do. You just say, well, get on with it, because that's what people do. They talk about what is relevant. So people are going, but they call it clickbait. But, what you do, just reports on things that no one wants to watch. I mean, that's going to be pretty boring at the end of the day. But they do say that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, clickbait's, something which I see on a regular basis as a Newcastle fan covering football, because Talk Sport love doing it. They'll get somebody to say something negative about my team, and then because Newcastle fans are so passionate, they're hanging on every word of the internet, waiting for a new signing or waiting for some news, and the bite. And that's what drives traffic towards a particular website. And it's not just true crime that we talk about and or debate about on these channels. But that's what happens, and it everyone's guilty of it in some way, shape, or form. I just feel if you're clickbaiting on something which has got a particularly knock-on effect for potential victims, I think you've just got to be wary,
I just want to answer this one. Neither. And who do you think is safer to work in schools, Atwood or Deca? Neither. Neither of them are safe. And I've something here we are. But also, where's he gone? Or she's so asked a question. She's asked a couple of questions about mention niche. Before, what about niche? Now, this is the thing that I've tried to bring to the public's attention again and again, Steve, and I never hear police whistleblowers talking about this when they're talking about cover-ups and police corruption and all that. There's a thing in the police called niche, which I called the Pandora's box. And what it is, it contains everything that the police suspect of someone. If every encounter they've had, it can never be altered. It can never be deleted. So the police can't go in there and start hiding things or messing things if there's an order. And also it goes straight to the Home Office, and the Home Office have access to it. And as I say, if you want to know that there's a cover-up going on of a person who shouldn't be around children and all that, or anything, just say, right, put the name through niche, and it comes up with everything, what the police have done. And it will also show if any victims have tried to alert the police, and the response has been NFA, no further action, because that will cut down an investigation straight away. And the officer in charge cannot appeal it. Once an incident manager says no further action, that's it. And that's how the crimes of influential people with influence over the forces, the police forces, ministers, local high celebrities, whatever, that's what causes the cover-up. So I thought I'd just mention that because I don't know what his name, forgotten, Sojo or something like that. That's an important fact. And I always go on, we should get to the position where if any serious allegations are made about people, niche should be open. But for some reason, for some strange reason, the Home Office never want that to happen. And it's like, I wonder why they don't want that to happen, because they know damn well what's on there and who's being protected on there. But it comes up with, and police do, people go on about the police, they're doing these cover-ups. Look, your ordinary Bobby on the beat isn't doing these cover-ups, I can tell you. They're just as disgusting as anyone else. And before they say, why don't they go out and publicly say it or complain? I did that. I went to what was called the IPCC, which is now the IOPC, the Police Complaints Commission, and I told them everything. I was immediately blocked. My complaint was blocked simply because, wait this out, I worked for a police force. And who are the first people, Steve, that will see corruption? The people on the inside. So the whole system is set up to keep these thingos going, these corrupt practices going. And it just came out, funny enough, about Tony Blair and the Stephen Lawrence tragedy. For people who don't know about Stephen Lawrence, he was stabbed, and the Met went into a cover-up mode and tried to cover it all up. The result was his mother, Doreen Lawrence, wouldn't let that happen, and it ended up with the IPCC being created. Now, it's came out that Tony Blair tried everything to stop all this, to stop it. And if you look at the rules, and people will tell you this, the IPCC are just as corrupt as the police forces, so you're rarely ever going to get any justice from them, or IOPC now. But something needs to be brought in, that niche has to be opened, because they're keeping it shut. You'd be horrified to know what's on there. I've heard what's on there, and it's not very nice what's on there, but you can't talk about it. But thank you for that person to mention that, because that's a very important thing about it. Because you go on about acros and enhanced DBSs, that won't have the full information on it. The concerns, the serious concerns that the police have. And that's what's the shame about it, really. But it's all very, very interesting, isn't it? It's all very dramatic as it's going now.
Yeah, I mean, there's been lots of drama in 2021. I mean, we're sitting here on New Year's Eve wondering what the new year's going to bring in. But there'll always be something going on. There'll always be, people having a beef. And I think there's been some fascinating characters, and I'm interviewing another one at 2:00 today called Lee Davies, and he said to me he's an observer. He's been on a couple of podcasts. He's an observer to what's gone on, and what he said to me today was, it's the lockdown period has brought out the best and the worst in people, really, online. I think ultimately there's been some fantastic content made and some fantastic channels born, and I'll be just like everybody else. When I'm not podcasting, I'll be sitting back watching the other content creators and seeing what they can come up with. And I think it's great. And I did an awards thing the other night. It was tongue in cheek. Some of it was to have a little bit of a dig, which I'm entitled to, because people have had a dig at me throughout the year. But I still think there's room for improvement with some of them, and I think that some of them will come back and do quite well. And I think a lot of these potentially good podcasts have been dragged into they've dragged themselves into the whole Deca situation. And I think if we can all move on from that, I think we might see some better content coming from other people. And
yeah, this one's amusing me. Don't trip. No clickbait from man. Do you know what? Are they strange? Are they actually seeing themselves? What are you doing on here then? No clickbait from man being funny. What are you doing on here? Thank you for the click. Thank you for the click. You keep my channel going strong by doing that. It amuses me when people say that. It's like, what are you watching for? You're the one that's clicking on it. I wouldn't watch something that didn't want to. But what was I going to say then? I was going to say something else, and it's just, oh, what am I doing? Karma, yeah. Oh, yeah, about your award ceremony, right? You're going to get roasted now, Steve. Roasting time for Steve Wraith. Why didn't I get a mention?
Because I've got to be honest, I had to watch your channel on a regular basis, and I only really discovered yours about 6 or 7 weeks ago. Because I hadn't spent a lot of time watching podcasts. I'd spent a lot of time listening to podcasts. Because obviously when the gym was shut during lockdown, I was walking a lot. So I think a lot of people tuned in expecting to see a top 10 of podcasts that all new. But I think the only person who broke into that, with the exception of Sean and James, because they more or less accompanied me in my ears all the way through lockdown, was Karma Corner, who I had to put at number 2 because it's the one that's made us laugh out loud the most. The other podcasts were all, they were all podcasts which I'd dived into at some point in time. And of course, the ones that I'd had a pop at were the ones who'd had a pop at me. But and the good thing is, I think, a podcast award is the way forward, and I think a virtual one is okay, but we should do a proper one. I think, a ticketed event where money goes to charity or something, and everybody gets together once a year. I think that's the way forward.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm happy for Karma Corner. I mean, everyone loves Karma Corner, don't they? Oh, Karma Corner's wonderful. Karma Corner's brilliant. Walk in the darkened room and just ask Karma Corner to bend over. Not that I'm jealous, like I am not one bit jealous, of course I'm not. Good luck to you. But you've got to do another podcast, haven't you? Sure.
I'm doing one at 2:00. Yeah, I still got another 10 minutes or so. And of course, you're jumping onto my channel next week when we're going to interview Ronan together.
Yeah. I think he said, I'm not going to argue with that. I'm not going on there. I swear I'm not going to go on there to start arguing with him, because there's things I will pull Ronan up on, and people can pull me up on, but there's things that I do sympathize with him over, and I understood why he did it. He hasn't done anything, which I'll discuss on there. He's it's not like I'm saying I think he thinks that I'm like an adversary of him. No, it's just that I thought it was funny what he said and did, so I did that video. And that's where I'm like, gotta remember where I was brought up, what I grew up in. We all had to have that sort of like bitchy rise taken out of us, and you just take it as that it's a bitchy rise. As long as it doesn't get too evil or too mean, then you're okay with it. But as for getting back onto Deca, it's just such a I wouldn't even say it's a shame. I think now he's going to get what he's invited to himself, and it'll be interesting to see how Mr. Atwood responds to this, because I sent him an email yesterday after watching that and told him my thoughts about him trying to get me connected and involved with Deca. I felt totally used. I could be in a really bad situation now. So he's been told what I think of him, which isn't much, I can assure you. He hasn't responded. And for people who ask me what's happened about he agreed to come on, God, why did I say straightener? Do you know what? It's just I'm hearing the word all the time. I said it and then I quickly said, no, I mean a variable straightener. I thought, God, how does that look someone with makeup going on? What, with handbags hitting each other?
I've seen a few of those in my time working on the doors in Newcastle, and I've got to be honest, for a split second, whilst I was watching you say that, I was envisaging you and him having a straightener, like, and it would have been quite a sight, I think.
I know I'll have to book a handbag. But this is it. It's just, I don't know why I said that, but he's bottled out, which you knew he would. He's totally bottled out, so he doesn't want to be asked those words. But I could still do it. I could still do that conversation with him in theory. He doesn't have to be there for me to do that conversation. But yeah, I felt totally, and I think this is the horrible thing that's come out of it. people.
Can I address something on your channel, Anne? Just Man
Yeah.
and Peace, because I'll not get a chance unless Man and Peace jumps onto my channel at some point. But obviously, he's just highlighting the fact that I sent a message to Anthony Burkett prior to Christmas about, and look, I sent a happy Christmas message to a few people with a photograph of me and a few of the guys who were out on that particular day. Anthony then sends us a message back saying Team Paddy. I then sent him a message back saying what I thought of Paddy to get a reaction. I got a reaction, and then I just said, choose a side. And then he went Team Paddy all the way. And I just said, okay, bye. So I took him off my social media. I don't know him. I've never met him. I've had dealings with him over the whole situation, but I haven't got a problem with Anthony. But what I don't want on my social media is people who are going to go back to somebody who is constantly having a dig at us. And that's it, really. It's as simple as that. Now, Man and Peace is asking us there. And I've had a little chat with him as we've been chatting. He says, fair enough, you're honest enough to admit it. Honestly, Steve, if I said I was Team Paddy, would you lash out and saying it for the reaction? So it's okay to call somebody if you don't like them. Look, mate, it's a reaction. And you know, I tested the reaction that I got from him with another comment. And I got the response that he expected. He then sent it across to that person. That person put it on social media. And that's it. It's as simple as that. It's a lot of this is a game, Man of Peace. You've got to understand. It's sad, but you know, I was told by my dad many, many years ago, you'll only be able to have, you know, 2 or 3 really good friends in life, and you can't really trust anybody. And that's very simple, you know.
It's not a matter of trust some people, because people think, oh, if you don't trust someone, you don't have you can't live or anything like that. It's not about that. You can trust people, but there's always one thing I always live by. Don't say anything to anyone you don't want getting out there, no matter how close you are to them. Because human nature is, you don't know what's coming around the corner. You could upset them, they could upset you. And it all blasts out, then it becomes, which you see happen on YouTube all the time. It becomes an online war. And then it's like you said, this one that happened to me, which I had to laugh at concerning, was the person I called the American podcaster. When he fell out with me, and he fell out with someone I talked to, Angela Power Disney. And he said on his live, oh, I'm going to tell Anne what you were saying about Anne to me in messages. Yeah, I think I'll tell Anne about that. And I immediately turned around and said, you don't have to, because Angela's told me. I said, she told me before she told you or anyone else what she thinks. And that's what I like about people like Angela. Angela doesn't go around stabbing you in the back. She'll say what she wants to say to your face, whether you like it or not. And so I thought, so there's no, when you know where you stand with someone like that, they'll say to your face, you're all right. But you really have to, you don't put it, and this is it with Angela or anyone, you don't tell them anything that you don't want getting out there. That's what you don't do. And people, it's not being a paranoid or cynical person. It's being a wise person that's wise to how life can go wrong, and go wrong really, really badly. So that's, you're right. And you only do have really a few friends like that you can say. I wouldn't say totally 100% trust. That's not advisable to totally 100% trust anyone. You've got to take the mindset. You can have a friendship without, and this is what I try to avoid, Steve, because I don't like it. You know, when friends become like a shoulder to cry on and all this, you don't mind it when someone is going through a bad time that you say, all right, I'll be there for you. And women tend to do this with me, and it really makes me want to say, oh, just no, I'm fed up with it now. They want to tell me all the problems, the relationship problems, everything. And it's like, I don't want to know your relationship problems. You've got relationship problems, unless it involves violence in some way where I can advise you what to do. I don't want to know, because I was brought up not to talk about relationships anyway. What happens in the bedroom is between you and your partner. You don't go blasting out there. You don't go saying that you've got women shoving things up your woo-hoo or anything like that. You keep it private to yourself. So it's just common sense. You don't give people that ammunition. So you're right there. You're right. So where do you think this Decca Heggie is going to go next?
I genuinely do not think this is the end of it. I think it's going to go on and on. He clearly is, he clearly has a monetized page, which is making him money. So videos going out on an ad hoc basis, I think will continue. Will we see him publicly? I don't know. I wouldn't want to have, some of the people who've come out recently on their own channel and said what they've said, breathing down my neck. And that is something which I think he'd be fully aware of. So I've just got a sneaky suspicion that this is going to run and run. But from my point of view, like I said last night, and I agree to come on here. If any podcasts I go on, if somebody asks us about it, I've got an opinion and I will answer the question. But on my own channel, I don't want to do it anymore. And people are asking, have your subs gone up since all of this? Marginally, yeah, mine have, but you've got to remember, mine is predominantly football. I tend to do one true crime interview a week, and I'm gonna expand, do a few different things. I've worked hard in the last probably 8 weeks trying to collaborate with different people, and I just that's what I want to do. And you've got to change, you've got to reinvent yourself every now and then. And I enjoy it when you say, do you want to come on? Sean's talked to us about potentially doing something once a month. So I've got other ideas as well for my own channel. So that's what it's all about. But with Deca, I can only see something happening on a regular basis on his channel. With stuff that isn't live. What happens away from YouTube? I would hate to hazard a guess, but I don't think it's going to be a happy ending, whatever happens.
Oh, here's one I've just noticed. It's good. Deca, do you think Deca did that video defend you or manipulating you? No, I always knew from day one he was manipulating me. He couldn't even mention it's androgyne, not androgyn. I mean, if he knew me or was that concerned, he'd at least know how to pronounce the name. But yeah, I knew from day one. That's why I didn't do a video saying, oh, thank you for all your support and all this. I knew at that point. See, I've always been, that's why I say I was on the fence. I've always been there. It was getting a bit too obvious that he was out to use people. And sadly, that, which we'll discuss, that happened to Ronan. He was the one that was in the position at the right time and walked into it. But I could have been Ronan. Could have done that. So yeah, he was manipulating me. I'm in no doubt about that at all. But it's just like I knew there was something strange from the start. And when I get that feeling, the goosebumps, I do keep me distance and watch from a distance, see how this going to fold out. And it's gone a bad way. But as for me, as I see the way he's going, I think he will reach burnout, which he'll have to disappear. But he should have just handled it from day one, being totally honest and open. Then you can move on. It's like what I said to Video Craig. I said to him, I was saying in that thing it did, the fishbowl effect. I said, what you've got to do literally is say, right, here it is. He's done his interview with Ronan, where Ronan grilled him. Move on now. Do your thing. Because you get into the hamster wheel of apologizing. And it's like what happened to, God, why can't I remember his name? Jim Davidson. Jim Davidson said he was sorry that people were offended by his chalky white character and all that. To me, it was a product of its time. Can you blame someone? He was young, and at that time, that was considered funny. And at that time, he was being thinking. Now, as he turned around and said, he apologized, but he did an interview, and he was asked to apologize again. And he said no, because he said, when is the BBC, every time they come on, going to apologize for the black and white minstrel show? He said, you go and do that. His life was becoming a perpetual apology. Everywhere he went, he was asked, are you sorry? Are you sorry for doing that? And he took the stance, I'm not going to apologize anymore. I have done. If you don't want to accept my apology, don't. And you move on. What Deca should have done is he should have put his cards right on the table from the beginning and said, there were, if you don't like it, that's your right not to like it. If you think I should be, prosecuted further or whatever, that's up to you to think that. But I'm moving on now. But what he's become, Deca, he's become his own scandal. He's feeding his own scandal. He's eaten into it. Same thing happened with Sean Atwood. I warned Sean and said, stop apologising and going on to podcast after podcast after podcast talking about it. I said, you say it once, leave it there. But no, gone on and gone on. And every time he's on somewhere, he's talking about trolls and all this business. And he's the victim. Yeah, he has been trolled. Yet nasty things have been said about him and lies have been said about him. But at the same time, he's encouraged a lot of it by the way he carried on. So that's the way I see it. He should have done it at the beginning. Can he recover from this? You can never say never. I mean, let's face it, he's still got a big following. You can't deny it, and I haven't seen it going down.
I think it took a hit at the start of the whole process, but it's going up again now. It is going up 100%. But and I'm afraid I have to take my leave.
Get ready for your next
guest ready. But thanks for inviting us on, as always, and look forward to seeing you on my channel next week.
So tell us quickly who you're interviewing so people can go and see it.
2:00, my channel, Steve Wraith. I'm interviewing a guy called Lee Davies, who started off life as a footballer. He then went on a downward spiral, really. He tried to make a career in the fire service, which didn't work out for him. He then joined the prison service, and that's where his life turned on its head. From that moment on, he got entwined with inmates, had an affair with a woman prison officer, and then started smuggling contraband into the prison, phones, etc. And he ended up as a prisoner. So it's a hell of a life story. We're going to talk to him about that. And he's also a big Newcastle fan. So I've got double bubble today. Somebody who isn't only going to talk true crime, but also going to have a chat about Newcastle United as well. So it's going to be an enjoyable afternoon for me tonight, this afternoon.
Brilliant. And the link to your channel is below. So that was very interesting. Take care, my lovelies, and love to Karma Corden. So I'll see you now. Bye-bye now.
Take care.